Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the DFS Report. It is a Monday. It is March the 24th. Hope everyone's having a fine start to their week. We have a not so great looking 4-game slate to start our week, but hey, happy to be back. It's always weird when it's been like 5 days since we did a show. I literally almost forgot to put us in the show after the intro, so that was almost a tremendous start, but we're good. We're here. We're back. We got a 4-gamer, so it's at 7:30 p.m. Eastern. Zach, how are you doing on this Monday afternoon?
Doing all right, Brock. I'm doing all right. Happy to get back in the saddle of doing some shows. I know we were just talking before we went live here. It feels like it's been forever since we've done a show, and it kind of has. It hasn't been since last Wednesday. So happy to get back into the swing of it here. Another fun week of hockey ahead, except for tonight's slate. Not very.
Yeah, kind of an ugly one. But hey, we'll someone's got to win the money, so why not us? We'll start with the goalies. Ilya Sorokin gets to start for the New York Islanders. It will be Elvis Merzlikins for the Columbus Blue Jackets, who will get Sean Monahan back for the first time in a very long time. So good to see Monahan back in the Blue Jackets lineup. We've got Jacob Markstrom getting the start for the New Jersey Devils, potentially Thatcher Demko for the Vancouver Canucks. Elliot Friedman was reporting yesterday that things are trending in the right direction. He could start as soon as Monday. We haven't as projected, but it could just as easily be Kevin Lankinen. But Thatcher Demko projected to get the start at the moment. Then it's Jake Oettinger for the Dallas Stars and Philip Gustafson for the Minnesota Wild. The Utah Hockey Club will host the Detroit Red Wings. It'll be Karel Vejmelka versus Peter Mrazek. So let's dive right into the slate. That's right. We've missed you guys. We appreciate it. We miss you guys as well. And honestly, I think I play much better to DFS during the show. Like when I do this show, I play way better. My lineups are better. They're just way sharper because like when I'm building myself, I'm not analyzing the charts as much as I should be or as much as I do on the show. So I'm happy to be back because it makes me a better DFS player. So, okay. Tonight's slate is gross for a couple of reasons, mostly because 3 of the games have ridiculously low implied totals, and then 1 game is a higher implied total. So at the moment, the Columbus Blue Jackets Islanders game is back up to an over-under of 6, which isn't terrible. But the Vancouver New Jersey game is an over-under of 5 even. Haven't seen that very much at all. Zach, I know you got some numbers on it. I'll let you spout those off in a second. But under is 5. The over of 5 is minus 128 at the moment. So it's basically 5.5, but still pretty wild to see a total that low. And then we've got Minnesota, Dallas over under 5.5 as well. And then Detroit and Utah an over under of 6. So pretty low total slate. But Zach, how many over under 5s have there been?
Yeah, so I pulled the numbers for the last 5 years. This season, there's been 2 games with a total of 5. Last season, there was a total of 4 games. In 2021-22, there was 2. In 2020-21, there was 52 games that had a total of 5. And in 2019-20, there was 70. So kind of interesting to see. We don't really see these low totals very much as of late. These last couple of seasons here, as sports betting has become more popular. But boy, somebody absolutely sonked that under today, man, because that is a pretty wild line. Like I don't recall ever seeing a total of 5 in a game. Mind you, I've only really been in the DFS NHL betting space for the last 3-4 years here. But yeah, pretty low total in that game. Kind of crazy to see.
Yeah, it's not very common these days. But yeah, somebody steamed that under pretty hard this morning. Let's get into it. We'll start with the Islanders and the Blue Jackets. The Islanders with a 3.2 implied total, 2.9 for the Columbus Blue Jackets. The Islanders are small home favorites. In this game, going to see a little bit of hard matching, nothing crazy. The second and third line of the Islanders are going to see the top 6 of the Blue Jackets, kind of the most. The Horvat line will see a little bit of that top line, mostly the bottom 6, though. And then the same thing goes for that 4th line. So matchup-wise, it actually is a little bit better for the Horvat line than it is for the second and third lines of the Islanders, which is pretty much all we really care about with the Islanders right now. They've really only got one line that's, you can truly rely on a night-to-night basis. And it's been that Bo Horvat line. It's been Kyle Palmieri. They're playing just an outrageous amount of minutes as of late. So good to see they have the best matchup if you plan on targeting the Islanders tonight, at least best matchup on that side of things. Their underlying metrics haven't been all that spectacular, but like I said, they're playing a ton, projected for 30% of the ice time at 5v5. The shot volume from Horvat and Palmieri has been really, really strong as of late. They're going to see a pretty solid matchup here, as I mentioned, with this bottom 6 of the Blue Jackets tonight. Overall, they grade out as the third best line overall tonight at 18,600. Simon Holmstrom pretty expensive at $5K, but like he's played, similar to Horvat and Palmieri. He's just seeing so much more usage right now that it's just kind of warranting the the price tag, and it's warrant playing him because the offensive numbers have been pretty solid. He comes in on a 4-game point streak, a goal in 3 straight before last game. So 3 goals, 1 assist in his last 4 games. The numbers have been really solid. He's north of 20 minutes time on ice per game during basically their last 10 games. And then the same thing goes with Horvat and Palmieri. The usage is just so high that it's hard to ignore them right now. So let's just take a quick look here at the forward projections from the Islanders because the usage is just massive for that line only, basically. Horvat, 21 minutes, Holmstrom, 20 minutes, Palmieri, 19 minutes, and then it just falls off a cliff. So for me, this is the only line that I have a lot of interest in. If you need to save some salary, you can get to Pajot and Lee, but, I'm just going to kind of ride with this Islanders top line, and it's not a line that I've played a ton of recently. I've sprinkled in some Horvat one-offs when he was 5,600. Now that he's up to 73, it's a little harder to get there. But when you take a look at this slate, I mean, this is one of only 2 games that has an implied total of 6, and one of the only 2 games that feels like it can get kind of turned into a bit of a track meet. So I do have some interest in the Islanders. I like that matchup. I like how much this line's playing right now. I probably won't get to too much of the Islanders' second line. Do you differ from me at all there?
No, not really. It's kind of funny. Just before the show, I was going to 20 max tonight, and then I was building my head-to-head lineup for the slate, and I was like, holy shit, I don't think I can build 20 lineups by hand tonight with the way that everything is breaking down. So, for me, I'm only going to be playing 5 tonight, and I think I'm definitely going to get to this top line of the Islanders. I think one thing I think we should probably start talking about too is just playoff motivation for these teams, right? You take a look at what happened the other night with Boston visiting San Jose. I mean, they looked absolutely lifeless against the San Jose Sharks team that's at the bottom of the basement. The playoff chances here are fairly slim for both sides. The Islanders, if they can win in regulation, would be a pretty big boost to their playoff chances, taking them from 29% up to 37 or so percent, according to Hockey Viz. So I like this Islanders side of this game here. I think I've got interest in both sides. I'll be getting there with, a line here with this top line. I've been playing them a little bit more lately, and it feels like I've had some decent success with them here. I really feel like it's kind of the line to target. I mean, I've gotten to this second line in the past, and it just really doesn't seem to click anytime I play them. Obviously, Anders Lee, I think, is a guy to have some interest in. I think at his price point at $5,100, he might be an okay one-off here on this slate tonight. Solid shot volume, 9.2 shots on goal per hour. For him, he's shooting just 6% over his last 20 games here, while generating 1.5 individual expected goals per hour. That's the highest of any of the Islanders forwards. So I don't mind mixing him in, but I think I'm probably just going to stick to this top line here. For the reasons you mentioned, they're the ones that have really been driving playing in the most decent way, I suppose, here. As of late, the offensive numbers, they're scoring the goals, and I think that's what the real difference maker is. Kyle Palmieri, a big reason for that, 1.5 goals per hour over his last 20 games. So if you're building around this Islanders top line, I would definitely be including Palmieri in there.
Yeah, if you take a look at their last 10 games, the shot volume, Horvat's averaging 3.5 shots per game during that stretch. So he's the one that's really doing the majority of the damage there. Palmieri, 2.6 shots per game, though, is fine enough. Holmstrom a little bit lower. Not going to expect too much shot volume out of him, and he would be the one that I end up leaving off, especially at 5K. But if you want a full stack, it's not outrageous. Jim says I rarely get to the Islanders because of how bad their PP has been all season. And that has been an issue, right? Their power play has struggled mightily. The good news for them tonight is that they go up against the 30th ranked PK over their last 10 games. The Blue Jackets really struggling there. So, maybe an opportunity to get right there, not get right, but, get, one power play goal tonight at least to try to help things out would obviously go a long way. The other issue is the Islanders just don't play in very high penalty games. They don't get a lot of power plays, and they're one of the, if not the most disciplined team in the league, so they don't take a ton of penalties, and when they're not going to the boxes, there's no opportunity for kind of a makeup call the other way, and just not been a lot of penalties in Islanders games this season. But yeah, the power play really hasn't been all that great. Our guy Beebs coming in here to let us know that Demko has been activated from IR. No announcement of starter though. With him getting activated, I think that pretty much seals the deal that he's going to be back between the pipes tonight. I would be pretty surprised. I would put that at 90% that it's going to be Demko tonight. Feel pretty confident there. On the Blue Jacket side of things, let's take a look at their lines and power plays now with Sean Monahan back in the mix. So he's going to be back on the top line with Dmitry Voronkov and Kirill Marchenko. Second line is going to feature Boone Jenner, Adam Fantilli, Kent Johnson. third line is basically the same it's been for quite a bit here. So we saw how just absolutely dominant Voronkov, Monahan, and Marchenko was earlier in the season, right? Like, I mean, these offensive numbers are splendid. They're super, super good across the board. Some of the best metrics in the entire league. The issue is that Voronkov has gone completely cold, not playing well at all. I should say not playing well, but just not scoring at all as of late. You know, maybe getting Monahan back in the mix will be what he needs to kind of spark things, because it's been quite bleak. He's gone goalless in his last, 9 games, and he has just 1 goal in his last 17. If I'm counting correctly here. Internet's not really cooperating, but roughly 17 games, just 1 goal and what looks like 6 assists in his last 17 games. Just not a lot of offense going around for Voronkov right now. So it is, you know, I don't think that maybe they're quite as strong of a play as maybe those offensive metrics suggest, but with the lack of production as of late comes a much lower price tag. $4,500 for Voronkov tonight. Really affordable. I don't mind getting there at all. I would rather pay $4,500 for Voronkov, who hasn't been scoring recently, than $5,000 for Simon Holmstrom, who has been scoring recently. Monahan $6,200 and Marchenko $5,400. I mean, Zach, how expensive were these guys? It's hard to remember exactly, but like the full stack this line at one point was like $20K. Now you get them at $16,100. Obviously not playing quite as good as they were then, but as you mentioned, you know, this is a perfect time for Monahan to get back in the mix for this playoff push for them. You know, this is a line that you were playing a lot of when Monahan was healthy. Are you just going to get right back to the well here now that he's back in the mix?
I'm kind of tempted to. I am. I mean, you know, they need to win here. They need to win if they have any chance really of making the playoffs. I think I'll get there a little bit. Like I might have, you know, a mini stack maybe. I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go with this Blue Jackets team quite yet, to be honest. I think it makes sense to get to this top line. I've had quite a bit of success with this second line here as of late. And I'm kind of thinking that might be the route that I actually go tonight. You know, Fantilli, he has been remaining pretty solid, all things considering, over this last 20-game stretch. Boone Jenner has been just great since he was returned from injury. You know, playing like 17 minutes a night, generating a high number of individual expected goals, 1.3 per hour, you know, scoring just 0.3 goals per hour so far here. Good shot volume for both him and Fantilli. You know, Kent Johnson, he's obviously been on a shooting heater for quite a while now, continuing to score at a good clip. So I think for me, I lean a little bit more towards that second line, partially because you're getting lower ownership on guys like Adam Fantilli and Kent Johnson, right? And with the power play is not really looking like they're going to be a factor here in this game. I think for me, that's a reason why I'm leaning a little bit more towards that second line than I am that top line here.
Matchups are nearly identical for those two. At least the matchup score, no real difference there. As you mentioned, power play is really struggling for the Blue Jackets as of late, 29th of the last 10 games. They've scored 1.57 goals for per 60 over the last 10 on the power play. Really, really bad number, but obviously still generating decent looks as power play that's been really good this season. Just 4% shooting percentage on the power play. That's something that's due to, you know, season positive regression here in the near future. So I'm not going to completely write them off. I feel better about the Blue Jackets power play chances tonight than I do about the Islanders power play chances. And if you're planning on playing the Blue Jackets, it's kind of a mix on that top power play unit. You got Monahan and Marchenko from the top line. You got Kent Johnson, Boone Jenner from the second line on that top line, or on that top power play unit, excuse me. So yeah, I feel pretty similar to you. Like I'll probably be a little bit heavier on the top line. So I guess I'm a little bit different, but I think my ownership is probably going to be pretty similar between these two. I think it's kind of splitting hairs. Price tag's pretty similar. Matchups pretty similar. I do have some concerns about Monahan missing a lot of time, but you know, I think I'll be probably pretty even in my ownership between Columbus 1 and Columbus 2. I think we got to talk about Columbus 3, specifically Matthew Olivier. He's $3,600. But over their last 10 games, Matthew Olivier is second on the team, leads all forwards with 25 shots on goals, 2.5 shots on goal, leads the team, or leads the forwards. In terms of individual expected goals for, he leads the team with 3.57. He actually leads the team in just goals with 5 over his last 10 games. He's been shooting the puck a ton. He's had some success. I don't think that I'm going to full stack Columbus 3. You might be able to talk me into it if I have to just get crazy. But but they have the best matchup overall on the Blue Jackets side of things. The underlying metrics from that line this season have been outstanding. They're generating a lot of high danger looks. Like if you're trying to get very different tonight and you want to like really pay up for Dallas 1 or something like that, and you're looking for a cheap line to target to get different, I think you could do worse than Columbus 3 tonight. And again, I don't know how much Aston Reese and Danforth I'm going to end up getting to, maybe a little bit. But Olivier at 3,600, I think as a one-off is kind of interesting. And I'll probably throw a dart there because he has had quite a bit of success. And they rank 17th overall, but if you sort by just 5v5 score, which is, they don't see any power play time at all, they grade out 14th best. So a small bump there and just 5v5 play. But I don't mind throwing them in the mix here tonight. Again, if I'm building one lineup, they're not my target. But if you're building, a lot, I think that they're in a fairly decent spot, and we've seen them have quite a bit of success this year. So any thoughts there with them?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind throwing this dart here whatsoever. I've been playing a fair amount of Olivier, over this last little stretch where he's been red hot. 8 games since he signed his contract extension with the Blue Jackets, 4 goals, 6 points, 19 shots on goal in those games. He's finding ways to generate offense. And when you look into the matchup a little bit more here tonight, 45% of their ice time is going to be coming up against that Islanders top line, 31% going against the Islanders fourth line. That fourth line of the Islanders giving up 14.2 high danger chances against per hour of ice time, while that third line for the Blue Jackets, they're generating 15.7 high danger chances. So seems like an interesting matchup there. Obviously that top line's had their struggles too, in terms of, scoring chance share and shot attempt share and stuff like that. So I don't mind this dart throw whatsoever here. I'll definitely have an Olivier one-off somewhere within my lineups at $3,600. Not a lot of great options in that kind of like sub 4K price range for forwards here on this slate tonight. And I think he's a great option there at just 2.6% ownership. Seems like a pretty nice little dart throw.
I don't know if I'd say he's a great option, but he's definitely an option. But if we want to take a look at Columbus 3 as a whole before we move to the next game, over their last 10 games, Olivier's second on the team in terms of individual high danger chances for, Corrali's fourth, and Danforth's tied for fourth. So all three in the top 5 in terms of high danger chances, and they're going up against a team that gives up a plethora of them. So kind of an interesting play here tonight. And again, like if you're looking at maybe onslaughting Utah or playing Dallas 1, like you're going to need some cheap options. And I think that Columbus 3 is an interesting target. Just going to take a look at the trend chart here. Not a whole lot going for either team at 5v5 right now, but the Blue Jackets been a bit snake bitten, 0.65 goals scored below expected, over the last 10. Again, power play, penalty kill for both teams, not very good at the moment. Let's get on to the Devils and the Vancouver Canucks. We talked about this implied total a lot. Just an over-under of 5. The one thing about this game that can just change everything. I think part of the reason why the total has reached 5 is it looks like Elias Pettersson could be out tonight. Looks like Niels Höglander could also be out. I believe Aatu Räty would move in for Elias Pettersson, and they would go with 11 forwards, 7 defensemen, if that ends up being the case. If you're planning on targeting the Vancouver Canucks and Pettersson is out, when he got hurt last game, they went to DeBrusk, Suter, Besser. They went to Teddy Bluger, Dakota Joshua, and Connor Garland. Then the bottom 6 would be kind of a bit of a mess. Some version, it was O'Connor with Lecker, Mackey, and Sherwood, I believe, something like that. I don't know if O'Connor would stick in the middle or not. If Aatu Räty's in, I'm assuming there'd be some shuffling, but I think that your main focus would likely be Pius Suter, Brock Besser, Jake DeBrusk. They obviously would have the most minutes, the highest offensive ceiling. Pius Suter also replaced Elias Pettersson on that top power play unit in that game. So you would have Suter and Besser on that top power play unit. Lecker, Garland, Hughes would be the other 3 members of that top power play unit heading into tonight. So it does look like or sound like Pettersson could be out tonight. It is yet to be confirmed unless it's happened while we were live. But yeah, like without really knowing exactly what's going on there, it's really hard to break down the Vancouver Canucks side of things. This is by far the lowest event game of the night. The matchups on both sides are pretty gross, but you've got Jacob Markstrom playing horrific right now. Like he has not been good at all. I'm just trying to pull up the numbers. I have them earlier. So his last 5 games, Markstrom has a .467 goals against average and an .816 save percentage in his last 5 starts. So he's been bad. The Devils as a whole Defensively haven't been great. They haven't been like horrendous, but they're one of the worst defensive teams on this slate tonight. And if Marsham continues to struggle, I think that Vancouver one is somewhat interesting tonight. I think it would obviously be a little bit more interesting if Pedersen and Höglander are out, right? Like if Suter comes in on the top line at $3,800, you'll have DeBrusk, Suter. Let's just see how much that line would cost. $14,200 to full stack that line. If that ends up being the case tonight, I think would be pretty interesting at sub 5% ownership against Jacob Markstrom, who's really struggling. That would be the extent of my exposure to this game, I think. Like, I don't think on it with an implied total of 5, I'm going to get too carried away on the Vancouver Canucks side of things. The Devils, if Demko's back, probably going to be some rust there as well. I think it's safe to say that Demko hasn't really had his strongest season yet this year either. 891 save percentage on the season, by far the worst of his career. So, yes, the total is low. I'm not going to be overly exposed to this game, but I think that there's some really solid value options in the mix here. I still don't mind this Cody Glass, Jesper Bratt mini stack. They get Stefan Nation on the left wing this game, so you can full stack New Jersey 2 for $15,000. I think that would be the route that I would go as opposed to stacking up this top line. Sure, and Timo Meier have played really well together as of late, so I would still probably consider them, but I'm not really expecting this game to break the slate, so I want my kind of value lines to come from this game and then find a really high-end option to kind of pair with them. So I don't know how much Hischier and Meier I'm going to get to. If we take a look at the matchups, it's much better, still bad, for New Jersey 2. The underlying metrics are pretty similar, but they've been really solid for New Jersey 2 as well. So I'll have some New Jersey top 6 in the mix here. Probably some Vancouver 1 if Suter's on that top line. What are your thoughts here? An implied total of 5 is it's alarming.
It's definitely alarming. I don't have a whole ton of interest in this game, to be honest with you. I think for me, I'm okay getting to a little bit of this Vancouver side of this game here. I think for me, it's probably going to just surround Quinn Hughes and probably be like a Quinn Hughes, Brock Besser mini stack. And then if Pedersen gets ruled in for this game, or ruled out for this game, maybe get Suter in there in the center spot. But, the nice thing is that this is this and the Blue Jackets game are both the, 7:30 Eastern time starts. So we should know, with some time in advance of whether or not they're going to be in. So that's a bit of a benefit for building lineups tonight. I think for me, that's probably the extent of my Canucks interest here. This is going to be a Vancouver team that needs to find a win in regulation. HockeyViz has them at 19% chance to make the playoffs. A win tonight would be like a 7% boost to those chances. So, it's getting to be critical time for a lot of these sort of bubble teams. And I think that's why we're seeing, Thatcher Demko potentially returning here tonight. Honestly, I don't feel the greatest about Demko coming back. He's been banged up all season. He has played 17 games, but it's not been great, man. Like an 891 save percentage, 1.4 goals saved above expected. Oh, yeah. And he's also really struggled against the Devils in his career. 6 games played, just 2 wins, a 346 goals against average, and an 889 save percentage. I don't really envision Demko coming in and being able to really save the day here for the Vancouver Canucks. So because of that, I think inherently I got to have some interest here in this Devils side of things as well. I do agree that, the route to go for me is probably going through that Glass Bratt mini stack. I think they're both due for a little bit more offense. There's been some solid shot volume there as of late. Jesper Bratt has just been an absolute assist machine here. 3.5 apples per hour over his last 20 games played. That being said, Hischier, Meier are the obvious higher upside guys here, both giving solid floors with their volume. Timo Meier, 10 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. Nico Hischier, 7 shots on goal per hour. Both have had, relatively good success against the Canucks in their career. I think I'm going to get to a Devils mini stack on that top line of Hischier and Meier and see if they can really pour it on. I also bet the over in this game just because it feels like, a total of 5 is absurdly low. So we'll see what happens, man. It does not feel like a very great game though all around.
Yeah, it's never fun to bet against the giant steam that came in on the under. Someone with a lot of money is feeling pretty good about an under here, which is why I'm going to be probably somewhat reserved with my ownership in this game. But I agree, like the floor you get from New Jersey 1 is kind of unmatched, at least in this game. 3.4 shots per game in his last 10 for Timo Meier, 2.7 for Nico Hischier, by far and away the leaders of the New Jersey Devils. Bratt and Glass really no floor to speak of. It's not great, but the upside has been really, really strong as of late. They've come through for us. But then you just look at the New Jersey Devils as a whole, not a lot of offense going on right now. 2.23 expected goals for per 60. And the Canucks penalty kill has been just absolutely fantastic as of late. So the second worst power play advantage of the night goes to the Devils, despite having the 8th best power play as of late. So I do think that I'm going to probably try to get a little bit different with Vancouver tonight. But yeah, with an implied total of 5, a lot of money coming in on that under today, I'll probably reserve some of my ownership for the other games this evening. Let's get to Dallas and Minnesota. Dallas is 3.3 implied total of 2.3 for the Minnesota Wild. I mean, the Wild's top line is seemingly broken my charts because, like, there's just no reason for them to grade out number one other than the fact, like, they are good. There's just no way around it that their numbers have been great. They also play a ton. And boy, Dallas defensively, like, what has gone wrong? What has happened to a team that is usually very stout defensively? Miro Heiskanen, I guess, like, their blue line's pretty gross, but like, this is crazy. These defensive metrics are horrendous. And as a team, it's bad. It's not been very good. 2.76 expected goals against per 60 at 5v5. On the PK, they're solid. So, like, they're still not giving up oodles of goals against. And then tonight you've got a Minnesota Wild team that their offense just does absolutely nothing. But then on the flip side, defensively, they're unbelievable. They've been the best defensive team in the league over their last 10 games at 5v5. And Philip Gustafsson's playing incredibly right now. So this is another one of those games where it's like, okay, yes, Dallas isn't playing very well defensively, but is Minnesota capable of taking advantage of it? Probably not. And then on the other side, Minnesota wants this game to be 2-1. Like, there's just no way around it. That's the only way they can win hockey games right now. So I find it very difficult to look at this game and be crazy excited, but, like, in the, relative to the rest of this slate, it feels okay still because it feels better than New Jersey, Vancouver. That's for sure. The matchups here are obviously pretty good for the Minnesota side of things, not bad for the Dallas side of things. So let's just start with Minnesota 1 because they're obviously grayed out number 1, and I'm obviously not in love with that. I will get to them a little bit, probably similar to the field at about 10% because they're the number 1 line overall on the charts. But something's up here. They've broken my charts. So things make sense, right? Like, when you look at it, the matchup is good and the underlying metrics are good. So they should theoretically be a decent play tonight.
Theoretically, they were a great play against the Rangers when they were the number 1 ranked line as well. And look what happened there.
Nothing.
Theoretically, we wanted to fade them against the Seattle Kraken last week, and, they popped off. So, I just have no idea what to make of this Minnesota Wild team, right? Like, it's just, there's such a weird group right now. I guess I'll get there on the top line, get a lineup of them together tonight. I don't necessarily feel the greatest about it. That's for sure. I mean, Jake Ottinger, he's continued to have a solid yet unspectacular season this year. He's been strong against Minnesota in his past. I guess I'll get there on this top line, sprinkle them in a little bit, maybe a little bit of Minnesota 3. Like, the line stats are pretty bleak for these guys. They do have a great matchup, just like the rest of the lineup here. Ryan Hartman has been pretty great since returning from, his long suspension. 1 goal per hour over his last 20 games, 1.2 individual expected, 9.3 shots on goal per hour. Like, I don't hate the idea if you need a cheap, third line to sort of target or something, of going with a Hartman Hinostroza mini stack or something like that. A little more than I'd want to spend on Hinostroza at $3,600, but he's got a little bit of shot volume, 7.1 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. But it does feel like a bit of a, exactly, just like Peter said, like it's hard to project whether or not they're going to show up. But I feel like it's a good enough spot, especially with how poor defensively Dallas has been as of late here, to at least get them in the mix a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, I just don't think you want to overextend here. But it makes sense. But then you look at this chart and you're like, 1.31 goals per 60 at 5v5. They're pretty shit. So I think about 10% getting them in the mix is fine. Like, Matt Boldy would be my favorite option. Obviously, the rest of this team provides somewhat reasonable floors. Ryan Hartman's okay, but he's up to 5K. Dallas side of things, like, I don't think we've seen the best version of Dallas 1 with Nico Rantanen yet. They've been fine. You use this word about Ottinger, unspectacular though. Like, it's been just good. They grade out 5th best overall. They're 21,400. Robertson, excuse me, Hintz and Ranton, they're not that expensive. The matchup's pretty good. You'd think, but then Gustafson's been amazing. Like, I just don't know if I want to spend $21,000 on Dallas 1 at 12% ownership when Minnesota's been great defensively and there's just better options on the slate. Like, I will get to them without question. When you look at this slate, they're kind of like just the highest upside line that there is. And if they somehow smash because Minnesota, decides not to show up, I want to be in the mix. I think I'll probably somewhat limit my exposure to the second and third line, but the second line has been really, really solid as well. Their underlying metrics nearly match Dallas 1. Their matchup is slightly worse, but like we're splitting hairs here because it's basically just top 9 against top 9. Third line, not quite as good, but Wyatt Johnson's been awesome. Like, this game is so gross that I don't know how much I'm gonna really get to it. I feel better about Dallas's offense than I do Minnesota's. Their power play has really been what's needed to carry them, though, and Minnesota's PK is okay. So I have my concerns about both of these sides. Dallas offense, just 1.96 expected goals for per 60 over the last 10 games is not good. The power play has been awesome, but it's needed to shoot 30% to do so. So this game, again, looks pretty low scoring, low total. I'll have some exposure to the top players on each side, but I don't think I'm going to be over the field by any stretch.
No, I agree with you. I've got some interest here in this top line for the Dallas Stars. I think they are the way to go here. Jason Robertson continuing to have a really strong run here over his last 20 games. 2 goals per hour. Roope Hintz, he's been the setup man, 4.3 assists per hour over his last 20 games, scoring a goal per hour as well. Mikko Rantanen, professional hockey player who's kind of had some real struggles since he's left Colorado, just hasn't quite looked like himself. They're pretty expensive line to target here. I'm going to be getting there. I've got them in the DFO head-to-head that we do here tonight. It feels like they're probably the highest upside line that this slate really has here in terms of offense. So I think there's a reason to get there. I don't think I would get over the field, though, at them around, 12, 13, 14, 15%. Like, 10% I'm pretty comfortable with, I think. It's feels like, again, just another kind of gross game here.
Yeah, I mean, we alluded to it off the top, right? Didn't feel like the best slate overall. Dallas will be mostly Harley for me. He's been great as of late, up to $6,500, unfortunately. But yeah, he's been awesome. I mean, 6 shots on goal, 2 goals in their last game. Shot volume, block volume has been pretty decent as of late. The offense has certainly been there. I wish he was a little bit cheaper, but I like Harley a lot tonight. I think he is just a tremendous hockey player. Let's get to the final game of the night. We got the Detroit Red Wings in Utah to take on the Hockey Club. 2.8 implied total for Detroit, 3.5 implied total for the Hockey Club. It is by far and away the highest event game of the night. Matchup-wise, pretty decent for the top line of Utah, the third line of Utah. A bit of a tougher matchup for Utah, too. Somewhat bleak matchups on the Detroit Red Wings side of things. I just wanted to pull up here. These two teams have met, twice now this season? No, just once. It's the second meeting. Utah won 4-2 in Detroit, but if you recall, it was only a couple weeks ago. Detroit got absolutely goalied in that game, which they've been doing a lot lately. They had 40 shots on goal. Karel Vejmelka stopped 38 of them. Utah was only able to muster 19 shots on Alex Lyon, who gave up 4 goals. So kudos to him. Kind of all over the place in terms of the goal scoring for Utah on that one. They had a goal from the first, second, third, and fourth line. So nothing really to take away from that one. But Zach, we talked about this a little bit pre-show. Best matchup, in the top 6 here is for Utah 1, and they're also been playing a lot of ice time right now. Projected for 30% of the Utah ice time tonight. Then it's kind of a mix between those second, third, and fourth lines. The underlying metrics continue to be pretty good, albeit, not amazing compared to their kind of teammates, but lots of offense coming here from Clayton Keller, Logan Cooley, Nick Schmaltz. They are 18,000 to full stack. They are the highest projected owned line on the slate at about 18%. Logan Cooley coming in the highest projected forward tonight at 21.7%. So lots to like about this line, lots to like about how much they're playing. And when you take a look at this slate as a whole, this is a game that I want to be overexposed to. Yes, they're already seeing 20%, but it's not going to be difficult to get to 30, 40% when you look at the rest of the slate. It's just pretty grim otherwise. So you talked about your DFO head-to-head. I have a game stack of this game, and I think that a lot of my builds are going to look like that because this is by far the kind of best game environment of the night. And hopefully, if Detroit gets 40 shots off again, hopefully they score more than 2. And apparently it doesn't take much for Utah to get on the board. So this top line's been awesome. Second line, though, has been really good as well. Barrett Hayton, Dylan Gunther, not quite playing quite as much as the top line, but still, you got Hayton at $4,700, which is a really affordable price tag. Michael Carcone at $2,900 is kind of one of the best value options at forward tonight. They're only 14,000 to full stack. Again, their matchup is a little bit more difficult up against Detroit 3 tonight, which has been pretty solid, but unbelievable offensive metrics coming from Utah too. Dylan Gunther shoots the puck more than basically any forward in the league right now. Like them a lot. And I've been touting Utah 3 quite a bit as of late as a nice value option. Again, if I'm building one lineup tonight, it ain't going to be Utah 3. But if I'm building 20, I'll have them in the mix because their underlying metrics continue to be just absolutely spectacular. They're doing a great job of generating scoring chances, and their matchup is the best on the Utah side of things tonight. So, like I said, they got on the board in the first game against Detroit. Wouldn't be shocked for a dart throw here if Utah 3 ends up getting on the board. Before we talk about the Red Wings, Zach, let's get your thoughts on Utah this evening.
Yeah, definitely got interest in this game similarly to you. I mean, this top 6 of both sides and that third line probably for Utah is where a good chunk of my ownership is going to be for my lineups tonight. I look at this second line for the hockey club as kind of like the floor line. Barrett Hayton and Dylan Gunther, tremendous shot volume from both of these guys. Dylan Gunther, 14.1 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games, 1.7 goals. He's been just absolutely tremendous like all season long here. It feels like that top line maybe is like the higher upside play here, 4.6 goals per hour, as of late for them. I think that's kind of the way that I'm going and the way that I'm kind of looking at this here. So, when we'll see my head-to-head build in a little bit, but, I got that Utah 2 mini stack of Hayton Gunther with Dallas 1. So I kind of got a solid floor line with Utah 2, got that upside line with Dallas 1. That's kind of the way that I built that lineup. So that's kind of the route that I'm looking to go here in terms of attacking this game here. Definitely going to have some of this top line. Definitely going to have some of this second line. Worth noting, Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz have been great against Detroit in their careers. Keller's got 8 goals and 15 points in 12 games played. Nick Schmaltz, 4 goals and 11 points in 10 games played. I like getting down to this third line. I've done it quite a bit here as of late. Really hasn't paid off for me, which has been fairly disappointing. I think I might sprinkle in a McBain Krause mini stack. I think they're okay value plays at the price point they have. $3K for McBain is a fine number. Lawson Krause, $3,800. Probably a little more expensive than I'd want, but you know what? He's got 8.2 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. So you got a little bit of volume there. Nothing spectacular though, to say the least.
Yeah, and then obviously we've talked about it all year. The Red Wings power or penalty kill, absolutely horrific, has been all year long. Utah's power play hasn't been very good as of late, 22nd over the last 10, but the Red Wings penalty kill, worst in the league, number 1 power play advantage tonight for Utah. So, a lot of power play builds as well. They got a sprinkling of both. And you got the full top line with Gunther and Sergachev there on PP1, and then a mix of the second and third line there on PP2. So lots to like about basically all 3 lines for Utah tonight, especially in a slate that looks relatively low scoring. But this full power play correlation on power play 1 for Utah 1 is really what gives them the edge, both for me and in the charts. But you mentioned it, the floor that you get from Utah 2 is really, really good. Dylan Gunther, 4.3 shots per game over his last 10 games, just outstanding stuff. But then you take a look at the actual production, it's been kind of meh, shooting 6.9% during that time. So just 3 goals over his last 10. But man, the shot volume, the floor is as good as it gets. And then Nick Schmaltz comes in with 10 points in his last 10 games. Clayton Keller, 8 points in his last 10 games. Okay, the Detroit Red Wings side of things. At 5v5, they continue to be pretty snake bitten. If you take a look here at the team trends charts here, these are the 2 best 5v5 teams on the slate as of late. But Detroit just scoring 1.97 actual goals for per 60, 1.19 goals scored below expected at 5v5 is awful. Feel bad for these guys shooting just 6.7%. That's what happens when you get goalied multiple times in a week. So they have been generating looks. This is a team that, Utah has struggled a little bit defensively. 40 shots the last time these two met up. I think Detroit can certainly get there tonight, and I feel pretty good about them. The power play's still been really, really good. They go up against a penalty kill that's just pretty meh. So they have the second best power play advantage. So this is just a lot of good vibes going around in this game in terms of offense, not a whole lot of defense, which is kind of completely different from the other 3 games that we've spoken about so far. So similar matchups for Detroit 1 and Detroit 2. Detroit 1 with Michael Rasmussen up there. The offensive metrics are pretty good. They're not great. But man, Detroit 2 has really been the line that's carried the water for the Red Wings as of late. And I think I'll have a little bit more exposure to Detroit 2 than I do Detroit 1 for a couple of reasons. Just they've been better as of late. I think that they're a little bit more comfortable the full stack. Like I much prefer Marco Kasper at 4,800 than I do Michael Rasmussen at 3,100. Obviously, the salary relief is helpful, but I just don't know how much of a ceiling Rasmussen really has. But worth a dart throw still at $3,100 playing with Larkin and Raymond. But to DeBrincat back down, like we had a point, what was it, 2 weeks ago, maybe last week, where DeBrincat was 7,400 and Patrick Kane was 7,100. Price points have really come back down here. You got DeBrincat under 6K, Patrick Kane at $6,100. They're seeing just 7.5% ownership. I much prefer this line to a lot of the lines that we've talked about on this slate tonight. And then you got Detroit 1. Larkin 6,500, great floor. Lucas Raymond 6K, great price tag. They're about double the ownership of Detroit 2, but they're also, what is that, $1,200 cheaper, so obviously a little bit easier to get to, but definitely going to have these two lines mixed in this evening. Just quickly, the third line of this game also has the best matchup on the Detroit Red Wings side of things. They haven't done a whole lot offensively this year, though, so I don't think I'll end up getting there, but if you need another salary saver, this is the only kind of high event game of the night. So Berggren, Comfort, Tarasenko, there's enough offensive ability there. Something could work at like 1% ownership, but it's probably not worth talking about too much. So do you prefer Detroit 1, Detroit 2, or just going straight Detroit power play stacks?
Kind of like the Detroit power play stack idea for sure. Get some exposure to both of these lines here. I think if I'm, from an overall full stack perspective, I do probably lean towards that second line. I think they're both solid options, but I mean, you're getting Detroit 2 at half the ownership. Like, yeah, they're a little bit more expensive, $1,200 more to full stack, but it doesn't feel like that's a make or break money or amount of money to kind of overcome here on this slate tonight. So I like the look of this Detroit side. Like, I think this is a really great game to target as a whole from a DFS perspective. Detroit 2, sixth best line to target overall on this slate tonight. They're continuing to just generate tons of great chances and everything like that. So it seems like a really interesting spot here for this Detroit side of things. One thing just worth mentioning about Detroit 3 in the one game that they played against Utah earlier this year, Jonathan Berggren had a goal and Tarasenko had an assist. So, they could be an option just based off of the fact that they've already scored against Utah this year.
Yeah, Detroit 2, last 10 games, Patrick Kane, 14 points. Alex DeBrincat, 5 goals, 8 points. Patrick Kane averaging 3.5 shots on goal per game. Alex DeBrincat averaging 4 shots on goal per game. So they've had, usually it's Larkin with the great floor. He's averaged just 2.8 shots per game during that time. Lucas Raymond, 2.5. So much better floor, much better ceiling as of late for Detroit 2, and they're seeing the lower ownership of the two tonight. I think it's kind of a no-brainer if I had to pick between the two.
Yeah, I agree. Just a quick note on the draft the slate as a whole. According to the NHL.com's Mike Morale, Pettersson and Hoglander have returned to Vancouver and will not be with the Canucks for the remainder of the road trip.
It seemed like you had breaking news there, and you sure did. So if you stuck it out here for 43 minutes, it'll be no EP40 and no Niels Hoglander tonight. So as I mentioned earlier, P.S. Suter, definitely the guy to take a look at, expected to get the bump. Again, things could change based off the last game, but last game it was DeBrusk, it was Suter and Besser on the top line. Suter also moved up to the top power play unit. So thank you for the breaking news, Zach. Okay. We're running out of time, Zach. I know you got a meeting here shortly, so let's race through these defensemen and goalies. Let's start with the defensemen. Mike Riley grades out pretty well, $3,100, seeing basically no ownership to speak of. Brett Pesce, 4K. Michael Kesselring, $2,800. S. Lindell, 4K. Sean Dursey, $4,100, seeing a lot of ownership tonight. Adam Boquist is going to play forward tonight, if that excites you at all. Jeff Petrie back in the mix at $2,500 is really, really cheap. Not a lot of great cheap defensemen tonight, honestly. Like, I don't know how I feel about many of these defensemen. Like Sergachev at $5,600 is somebody I want a lot of exposure to. Moritz Seider at $6,100, somebody I want to have a lot of exposure to. Anybody else is kind of just a dart throw. Like, these other games are so awful. Like you said, Quinn Hughes, you said Werenski. It's easy to name the really expensive guys. Is there anybody cheap that sticks out to you that's worthwhile tonight? Like Dante Fabro, $4,300 seems okay.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Riley at $3,100 seems like a good option. Michael Kesselring is a guy that I play probably a lot more than I should. plays a lot of his minutes with the top six of that Utah side. 7.4 shots on goal per hour over his last 20 games. His biggest issue is just a bit of a lack of ice time. I think he's a fine option here tonight. Oli Mata, I think at $2,900 is okay as well. Block some shots, take some shots. Hasn't been doing a ton of that as of late, but is a player who can definitely get in front of it. So, Victor Mancini, a guy we've played a little bit, throughout the season at $2,600. I think those are some okay kind of punt options. Your block gods, Romanov, Middleton, Fabro, Lindell, Labushkin, all fine plays here, I think, tonight.
In terms of ownership, the highest kind of cheap defenseman for projected ownership tonight: Sean Dursey, $4,100. Adam Pelech, $43. S. Lindell, $4K. Jeff Petrie, $2,500. Jake Middleton, $4,200. To the goalies, Ottinger, $8,200 projects to be the best goalie play, also the highest owned. I think that makes a lot of sense. Merzlikins is interesting at $7,400, kind of just similar. Like, you just don't really know what you're getting from him on a night-to-night basis. He's been okay. Some big games, some poor games. $7,400 against the Islanders. I think you could do worse. Markstrom and Demko make sense because that scores so low. I probably, even though he hasn't played in forever, trust Demko more than I trust Markstrom right now, if I'm being honest with you. But no EP40. I think that getting some Markstrom in the mix is reasonable tonight, especially considering he's projected to be the second lowest owned goalie on the slate. I think he's a decent way to get different in a low total game, but the volume is just not there for either one of those goalies tonight. So low total, but low event. So it's kind of, some good, some bad. Vejmelka, if he speaks 38 saves again, we'll be fine. I don't know how much I'm going to get there. That game is the only one that could be high scoring tonight. Sorokin seems fine at 8K. But yeah, goalies are pretty bleak tonight. I basically started the day saying I'm not going to pay up for Jake Ottinger, and then I found myself paying up for Jake Ottinger a lot. One guy that I think is super interesting, I said how good he's been as of late. We know this Dallas offense hasn't been quite as good as we've expected as of late. Philip Gustin, $7,200 makes a lot of sense tonight.
I was just going to say that 6 games played against the Stars in his career, 4 wins, 183 goals against average, 947 save percentage. I'm willing to take some shots here on Gustafsson at that price point. The slate as a whole just feels really gross. So I don't really know where I'm going to go with my goaltenders, but I think Ottinger and Gustafsson, I got interest in both of those guys. Maybe a little bit of Merzlikins, maybe a bit of Sorokin. They both have been pretty good against the opposing teams in their career as well. Demko, Markstrom, I'm probably fading both of those guys here tonight. Vejmelka might have a little bit of interest there. Don't think I'll be getting to Mrazek, though.
Come on, no Peter. Demko starts. Pettersson, Höglander is out, as we mentioned. Atu Ratti in, and the other Elias Pettersson is expected to dress as a 7th defenseman, as far as I know. Let's get to the hat trick pick challenge. If you want to participate in today's hat trick pick challenge, drop your hat trick pick in the comment section of the video on YouTube, not the live chat. If your player scores a hat trick, we'll get you a $25 gift card to Nation Gear. You can pick up some DFO swag. Zach, we forgot to look at who won our last head-to-head, but I think it was you, so I'll let you take your hat trick pick first.
It's very kind of you, Brock. I'm going to go with Dylan Guenther, highest projected forward on the slate.
I'll go with Alex DeBrincat. Let's get to today's head-to-head. So as I mentioned, I didn't figure out who won. We will figure it out, but I think it's 37 and 40 for you on the season. Take it away. Who do you got tonight?
Yeah, as I kind of talked about, wanted that Dallas one as the high upside line. So we got the full stack there. Got a solid floor with the Utah 2 mini stack of Barrett Hayton and Dylan Guenther, Michael Rasmussen, a little one-off option there. Talked about Michael Kesselring at $2,800, some correlation there with Utah 2. Mike Riley, $3,100. Welcome to the team, buddy. And then we're paying up for Jake Ottinger.
I've got Barrett Hayton, Dylan Guenther, Michael Carcone, full stack Utah 2. Then I went with a kind of Detroit power play stack with Larkin, DeBrincat, Kane, and Sider. Punted Mike Riley, got Jake Ottinger between the pipes. That is going to do it for this edition of the DFO DFS report. We will be back, obviously, all week. We've got a 10-game slate tomorrow, 4 games on Wednesday, 10 games on Thursday, and 6 games on Friday. So really nice looking slate of games this week. Looking forward to another fun week of DFS. Best of luck tonight. Hopefully you return with more money in your bankrolls, more than you had tonight. Please, if you're watching on YouTube, smash that like button for us. Helps us grow the channel. Helps us continue to bring these things for free. Zach, you said you needed to be out of here by 5:30. It's 5:26. Look at me go. We'll see you guys back here tomorrow.